Okay, so you're being recorded. I have to say that, so privacy policy thing up there. All right, so this will be on, and you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. Hopefully, I'm using Microsoft Teams for this recording, so I'll be on for a while. Let's see. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this class here, and then we're going to call, instantiate a new object of the child class. We're going to say child class cc equals new child class. And then I should be able to type cc dot some string, some number, and then write to application log. And then in this application log, grab that logic that was in there. Boom. And I should be able to do that. And by doing that, I'll show you what I did. See, Visual Studio has all these little tricks and and things that you can do to make yourself a lot faster as a developer. You'll notice up here that I've only got, let me delete these four. I'm only referencing this one library. Now, if I hover over this and I hit my Control period key, it says, I suggest that you bring in the system.diagnostics library. So I'll go ahead and do that. It gets rid of the error. And now I should be able to use this event log. And then the other thing, let me see what else I can mess around with in here. Event log dot. Ooh, dot.
Yes, okay. Again, mommy is trying to do something. Yes, so can we please? Coach, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Oh my goodness, I can't hear. Hello?
Yes.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Awesome. Okay. Thank you for why do we have to do it? I see, I'm sorry. Again. Do I need to mute again, guys? Not in here. You can go in mommy's room. You can go in your room. You could go wherever. Just not here. I need to be able to hear. You no, because it's not Thursday. Okay.
So here's the beauty of this, Ebony. I have 3 children. I have a 3-year-old as well.
Oh my goodness.
So you do what you got to do with your children. that always comes first for me.
Oh my goodness, the 3-year-old, she just does. Sometimes it feels like she doesn't understand English.
Well, they're just
7-year-old, he doesn't help. You said what?
Little people. I said they're just little people. That's all that is.
Yeah.
So
okay, so where are we?
Yeah, let me back up here for you. So here's what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
I created a separate project over here. This particular project up at the top, well, actually this one here, this is the one I was messing around with that I first created. This test console app. Ignore this right here. Now this test application log, this will only run on Windows computers because it uses the .NET framework, and obviously you're not going to be able to use the .NET framework on Macs and Linux systems.
Yeah.
So this application log example that I'm showing you will only run on a Windows computer. But since the service that I'm creating is going to run on a Windows computer, I'm going to use this logic. And full disclosure, I've never used this logic before. So that you might see me going back and forth from Google and stuff, but it's more conceptual at this point. So a lot of development is just trying new stuff. And if it doesn't work for you, you find another way to do it. So, but what I want to do is I'm going to message. I'm going to pass in a message here into my my application log. Message, and this should work. And so up here, I'll say testing app log here. I'll save that. And then I've got to right click and make this my startup project there. And now, so to kind of kill two birds with one stone and show you a little bit about debugging, I'm going to set a breakpoint here, and then I'm going to debug my code. So anytime you're debugging your code, obviously you want to, debugging your code allows you to do a few things in either Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code or whatever your IDE is, that if it allows you to debug.
Yeah.
If you're running with a language, excuse me, that can be compiled, you'll want to debug your code if you have errors in it. So with your situation, sorry. So with your situation, you're trying to get down into the catch of your try catch.
Yes.
So what I was telling you the last time you and I had spoke was in your your catch part is only if you have an error, right? Now, in the catch, you won't be able to plan for every error. That's what the catch is for. It's kind of like a catch-all, right? Or an except in Python. So anything that your code can't handle will fall into that scenario under your catch or your except. And so in this particular one, what I'll do is I will wrap my application log call in a try. And so what a lot of people will do is you don't have to do anything in a catch. You just have to, in some programming languages, it'll just stub out when you start typing. You hit the tab key, it'll automatically complete the stuff for you, like Python does, and this will do. And so if I have an error right now, I don't have anything in there. So let's do like your scenario, and we'll put something in there. Error to application app log, something like that, right? So what this does is the goal is that it never hits this line. That's the goal.
Yes.
And so, but if it does hit that line, it won't stop your code from running. That's the key.
Yes.
That's what the try catches and the tries accepts will do for you.
Okay.
So if I move this code here down to the bottom, I still want this code to execute, but I want to try to do this piece of code. And if it doesn't work, then I want to do that and then just keep going.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's run this and see what happens here. And so I've put a breakpoint on there. So when I click start, it should stop right there
on the line 11.
Yep, on line 11. Yep, and you see how it highlights there?
Yes.
Okay, so now down below, now this is for Visual Studio, and so again, this is different for like Visual Studio Code, but it's still this kind of the same scenario. In Visual Studio, they give you this really neat window down there where you can see exactly what's in your variables as your code is running.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that's what I had that because I was trying to debug in PyCharm, and so it was showing me, okay, in this line it's saying that your date of birth is this, and then it would show me what I had input for my birth, and then it would show me that my next line was like an integer, and it said that my age was 37. And then it would move down and move down. But then when I got into the try catch, I don't know if I pushed something wrong or what happened, but like everything turned red. And then I started getting trace back errors or something like that on the actual on one console. And then on the debugger, I didn't know what I didn't know what I was looking at. I was like, something is obviously wrong, but I don't know how to read it to know what I need to correct. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So anytime you are debugging your code, there's ways to move your code line by line. In most IDEs, the F10 key will step you to the next line of code.
Okay.
The F11 key, again, you have to check PyCharm. I've never used PyCharm, so but the F11 key will actually take you into code. So, for example, when we get down to line 17, right? We hit line 17 here. So let's say I want to go into this method and watch this method execute line by line inside of the method.
Okay.
So instead of me hitting F10 to execute this line of code, I want to hit F11 and actually go into this line of code.
Go into it.
And now I can hit F10 while I'm in there, and I can see what's going on. Okay, so now
event log or event word message.
So now if I go over to my
now you're in that line.
Yep. So I actually just executed all 3 lines of this code right here.
Okay.
So now if I go over to my event viewer, and if I refresh it, again, I've never done this before. So event viewer. So let's see what happens here. And I'm sure there's some other stuff I'll probably have to set up to make this work here. Refresh. In here somewhere, there should be an event line in here for what I just did, but we'll see what happens. What I might do is just clear the log. Let me just clear this log. Clear it. There we go. Now let's see. I should have a hello world in here. Yep, I do. And now that's the end of, that should be the end of my code. And it's not stopping. Okay, so here's a great example of this. Okay. You see where I have this unhandled exception? This means that my code errored out and it's done. It's not going to do my next line of code.
So it's not going to move on to line 26.
Correct.
Okay.
So now, if I want to fix that, then what I can do is I can move, and you see how now my code is stuck. My stuff is stuck here. You know, I can't do anything.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have to stop my code, and I have to address the issue. Well, a great way to do that is just to throw it into this try catch here. And now what will happen is, as I debug it again, let's see if this runs here. I'm not sure what that does. Well, it's doing something there. And I think let's see. Oh, there it is right there. So you see how I have my testing app log here right there?
Yes,
so
I see that.
It actually wrote what I put in there to my application log. Now I'm sure that this is probably something else that I have to set up in here over here. And then that way it'll start showing stuff up like it's supposed to.
Okay.
But it actually wrote to the log like it was supposed to.
do. Okay.
Yep. So now
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So now I'm going to continue my code, but now I get to that line that I had that I know is going to throw an exception. So if I hit F10 now, you notice that it comes down and it goes into the catch. And in Python, this would be the except block, right?
Except. Yes.
Yep. And so if I hit F10 and keep going, it's going to write to my
It's
log.
kept on. Yes. Okay. Okay. But so okay. You put it in the try except block, right? What would happen if you got that error and you were trying to debug and it was inside and it said you know how it said exception unhandled? That would basically, that terminology would be your indication that you need to put it into the try except block, that it's outside of it. You see what I'm saying? Like, once that came up, how would I know what to do?
Okay, so anytime you see, let me move it back down there and show you how to kind of trouble. So you're asking more, how do you troubleshoot, right? You know you've got an error there, but you're trying to find out, okay, what's the next steps? What do I do with this information, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so let me move that read line down there too. Okay, so let's go here. We know we're writing to the app log, and I'll just debug to here. So let's say I wasn't debugging anything. And let's say I run my code. And now something happens and this black box is still up here and it's not doing anything. My code is stuck. I got folks calling me and they're like, what the heck's happening? And all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your first indicator that there's something wrong. Because you know your code should stop running at this point.
Yes.
Or do something different, right? So what I do is I stop it from running. And then the next thing that I do is I start to debug my code. So I'll usually I'll find a starting point. And then the other part too is, as you're building your code, this is way before you've even run it for the first time, it's just really good practice to put logging information in your code, like these console write lines and stuff like that, to indicate where you are in your code, right? So for example, let's say up here, I'll say console write line, and I'll say and so what that lets me know is that the next thing that I'm going to do is do this line of code. I'm going to make a new object of the child class.
Right now.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a comment.
Yeah, and it's a comment that you can see running at the same time.
Okay.
Right. And then the other thing too. So let's say now I'm inside of my try catch. I can say writing to application log, something like that. Instead of me putting this hello world, I can say log completed. And then actually this would actually go over in that right here instead. We can put that there. Because it's still going to do the same thing what we're trying to do. It's going to, and it's basically an indicator of where you are at in your code, right?
Yeah.
So then, let's say I'm at the next step, which is some other var to screen. And then that, I mean, because that's the whole purpose of these console write lines in the print in Python. That's what they're used for. they're used to be able to see where your code is executing at.
Executed. Okay, got it.
So now,
So the print is kind of like console dot write line.
mm-hmm. So
Okay.
now I can say code completed. So now, if I run this without debugging it, I've got an exception. But now, if I go over to my code, I can see exactly where I stopped at.
Stopped. Yes.
Yep. So now I can come to this line and I know exactly where I need to, I know exactly where I need to address it.
Yes.
Yeah, because I did not see this line, but I did see this line. So I know it's in between these lines of code right here.
Yes, those there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So now let's say I'm ready to debug my code just to see exactly what's happening there.
Mm-hmm.
So I can start here on the last line that I logged to the screen.
That you saw. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And now I can hit F10 and step to that line. And when I get to this line of code, if I hit F10 and I get my exception, inside of Visual Studio, you were probably seeing something like this, like all this stuff here.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so that, I don't understand why Windows and Microsoft and other IDEs do that, but they make it very confusing.
Yeah. Yes. Because I was like, it was all in red. And I was looking at it like, I don't know what all of this means. Like,
right.
I don't understand all of this. And then I don't know how to take the information that I don't know and fix my code. Like, so I was stuck.
Yeah. So in most development languages, again, I'm not sure how PyCharm works, but you'll see a line number in it like this. You see this line number right here. So that tells me that on this line of code, I've got a problem on this line of code somewhere.
Yes.
Now full disclosure, it won't always do that, but it'll get you really close. In Visual Studio, you read from bottom up, and they can get really long. Right? And so, but if you start seeing line numbers in there, you want to kind of go with the line number and kind of work your way through the code. That's where debugging kind of helps out tremendously, because you can start before your code blew up and debug and step in and step out of code.
Yeah.
You can see exactly where your code blew up at, right?
Yes. Instead of going line by line, you can go directly to it.
Right, exactly. Right. So in this instance here, I've got my code and you can see it's still running, but it's just the code is stopped because it's aired out. So I need to do something with this particular exception. So what I need to do is cast this correctly, or I need to make sure that this some other number is in the form of a number. So if I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I run this, then it should not error out this time, and it didn't.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. See that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got it.
Because what this particular method does is it takes something that it believes should be a number and it tries to actually cast it to a number. Yeah. So you notice if I hover over this, it says it's an integer value now.
Yeah.
And so this will be transforming this string into an integer. And then you could actually use that for other purposes. So let's say I wanted to use that in some kind of a calculation or something like that. I could do that way. But in languages like C# and Java and other languages, you have to do some checking of what you're looking for first. There's other methods that you can use instead of convert. You can use try parse or try int or whatever, and do it that way. That it's better equipped to handle exceptions. And so you want to try to minimize the number of exceptions that you have, because obviously that puts your code at risk. And then also you want to use methods and functions and code that makes your code run more efficiently and faster. So there's a guy at my job that gets real picky about that kind of stuff. But
okay, now for this particular, this is outside of debugging. For what actually we're working on right now, we're watching you pretty much work on right now. Do we need to already have like kind of like a background or like an understanding of C#? Because I'm looking at your code and some of the things are familiar. And then like you said, console.writeLine, that's pretty much like print. And then try catcher, which is try exception. But then we have your classes, that's like JavaScript, right? Like that's like
well,
but is there certain terminology or certain things that we should know?
Yeah, so C# is you really should get very familiar with the Python language. It's not so much so here's the thing, right? The syntax is going to be different from Python to C#. But the concepts that you need to learn in Python will help you. Like I was talking earlier when Samantha was on, knowing about object-oriented programming is a must if you're going to work in C#. If you're going to work in VB.NET, or if you're going to do ASP.NET development, you have to know some level of object-oriented programming and be comfortable with it enough to know, hey, I need to inherit from another class, or I need to create a property, or I need to create a class, or when to use interfaces and stuff like that. So the concepts are, if you look at Python, because like in Python, you can create your own methods, you can create classes in Python, you know, all of that same functionality and concept is there with Python. The syntax is different. That's the main thing. And so but the concepts are going to be the same for you. And so and then the other thing about C#, and I think Antoine might have said this before, C# is a language it's fairly popular. It's one of the top 3 or 4 languages that people look for a skill set with. But you have to have some conceptual knowledge. And my goal is to, with this particular project, is to get these kind of questions. Because even though Python is a popular language, I won't say it's widely used. You know, it's widely used in open source programs and stuff like that because of its interoperability. Probably not saying that right. But C# is a language that a lot of corporate companies will use because of the level of support that Microsoft gives you, the skill set you have to have, because you'll find that people that know C# also know a lot about SQL or Java and other languages. And so what happens is these large companies, they have old technologies that you're trying to port over into new technologies, and they need somebody to be able to come in, look at old code, understand what it does, and make it into new code. And so that's what I like. That's what I do for a living. Actually, is I look at all kinds of old code, C#, COBOL, DB, and I make it into C# code. And so, and then I also work with a lot of SQL stuff. So, and you'll also find that languages like Python, Java, C#, and other languages like that work extremely well with SQL, with SQL. So,
so basically, like in particular, your job, or like you were saying, someone that has like a older Windows code that they want to turn into new C#, you would not only need to know C# to turn that code into, but you would have to have a very good knowledge of all the other code prior, the old code, correct?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
look at it this way, right? Software engineers, um, so software engineers and mechanical engineers and electronic engineers and robotics engineers, they all have the same thing in common, is that they have the skill set to be able to to come up with solutions to problems, right?
Yeah.
No matter what kind of a problem it is. So in my instance, I can tell you right now, I despise C++ code with passion. I've I, I've never written a line of my own C++ code, but I can read C++ code and understand what it does enough to do my job.
Yes.
But yeah, it's to me it's just nasty stuff. But you being any kind of an engineer, and this is what I was telling you, if you have to have a certain mindset, right? There and that's not a knock on other people that can't do it. It's just that there's a different kind of a skill set and mindset that you have to have. The most important things about doing what I do as an engineer is you have to be willing to try new things. You can't be scared of new things. You have to have really thick skin because your code and what you do is going to be challenged. You're going to be questioned on what you're doing constantly, as far as why do you think that code works any better than my code, right?
Okay.
So you'll have to learn how to defend your code and what you do. You can't be scared to ask questions because nobody knows everything. And you will run into some people that are very arrogant and think they know a lot. One of the guys on my team, he said to me last week, at beginning of last week, he said, well, if you have any question on this code, just come talk to me or this other guy, because 99.9% the code is right. And I kind of looked at him and I was like, well, you saying a whole lot, man. You know, your code, you know. And so you'll have people like that are they're dug in like ticks, thinking that their code is this. So again, you have to have really thick skin doing this line of work. And then you can't be scared to make mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna blow stuff up. That's how you learn. That's how you learn. And I think I'm gonna told you. I know I told Antoine. Trying something new cost me a job, and so, but I learned the skill set and what not to do the second time around, and and it helped me get the job that I have now. So I mean, it's those kind of things, and so, but you just have to be very careful.
That's what you have to be prepared for as an engineer.
Yep. So don't get too caught up or hung up on the syntax of it. Learn more of the concepts, right? So the fact that you're asking a lot of questions about the try catch stuff is great, because you want to understand how it works and how you would use it and what to do when it happens. So with this code that I'm showing you right now, one of the things that you can do, and it's very similar to Python, one of the things you can do is you can write stuff from your exception in your log. So let's say I want to write exactly what happened in my log. Let's say plus ex.message. And let's say I blew up I blew up something here. So you'll see it says ex.message cannot be used like a method. That's because it's already a string, Alex. And actually, let me not do it that way. Let me turn this back into the boo. And I'll take that up there. I'll debug it again. And so just like in Python, you can write your exception to the screen to see exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So like if I hit F10 here, I can see that this exception has something in it and it says input string wasn't in the correct format. So that tells me, hey, your string can't be turned into a number. You got to put something that can turn into a number in there.
Number. Because you changed it to boo.
And that's not a number, obviously.
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
And so now if I come down here, I can see that it says, hey, you've got an error in your code there.
It's not in the correct format.
So you'd see something more like this instead of all of that other stuff.
Yeah.
You see something like this, yeah. And then if I keep going, it'll keep making my code run. And so now it's just waiting for me to hit the line. Ooh, hit the line there. Where'd it go? I'm getting a little click happy here. Hold on here. There it is. So it's waiting for me to hit the enter key. Yep. So now it's on my last line of code. I hit F10. If I come back over here, it should say code completed. And then if I hit F10, now it's done.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's the concept that you want to get. You don't don't worry about I don't expect anybody that's watching me do what I'm doing or that's on the C# channel to understand C# quite yet.
Yeah.
But my goal is to help with the concepts of things that are helping you, so that you go over to the Python channel, you're doing your stuff over there. That concept, you'll be like, oh yeah, I saw that over there with Coach Alex.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm working on this personal project here, and I was like, you know what, it'd be a great opportunity for me to help people to grasp some concepts that may have a problem with over on the Python channel, and just to show them that it's not something that's just Python related. It can be applied to other types of code languages and stuff like that. So
yes.
Yep.
This is awesome. Okay, now a quick question before I have to go, because I gotta start cooking dinner. But so also, I mean, I see your code there. When we go to your GitHub, that's another thing that I don't quite know how to navigate. And I need to look at some of the stuff that Nicole, okay, I see that she put that in resources. I saw your wireframe. I knew what that was. But then when I went into, where did it go? Oh, I can't find it. Yes, I can hear you.
That's weird. Hold on one second.
Can you hear me?
Hold on.
Hello?
Let me,
Okay.
Turn my.
Where did it go?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why my headphones just stopped working all of a sudden there.
Well, that's strange.
I don't know why was that going on. Okay, I'm sorry. I heard you were asking a question about GitHub, I think, right?
Yes. Okay. I don't know where it's at. You had posted something where you said all of, I guess, the files and stuff were in your GitHub.
Yes.
And then when I went there, though, I didn't know what I was looking at. Like, I was like, how do I don't see any, I didn't see any code. I didn't see anything. It said that you had created something. I think it kept saying that you had created a file or you had created something. And I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know how to Yeah. Am I supposed to? Is this what I'm supposed to be seeing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so
So
let me step you through how this works. And don't and I think I might have been saying this in the channel earlier, was that don't get hung up on it being GitHub. It's more the
yes,
Git
yeah,
experience that you want to
yeah. That's
worry
what.
about,
Yes,
right?
I remember reading that. Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what I was kind of talking about is if I go into this PC parent service, this is my repository,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And this is where everything that I'm going to put in there is going to go, no matter if
Mm-hmm.
it's a folder or if it's a file or whatever. Now, it's just organized differently. And so anytime you place code out there on a repository, the first the first the first code you put out there is going to be your base code. It's going to be your starting point for all of your other code from that point forward. Okay.
Okay.
So it's your first, it's like your version one of your code basically.
Okay.
And so anytime you commit code to that master branch, and we think of branches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, your master branch is like your main tree. And then as you create code, you're going to create little branches that are branching off of that main
From that
tree.
tree. Yes.
Right. And
Mm-hmm.
then once you're done with that, you're going to link that to the tree, to the main
Okay.
tree. Okay.
Yes.
You follow me so far?
Yes.
Okay. So so basically when a developer or development team, because usually you're working on code as a team in a team environment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so what's going to happen is you're not going to change if let's say you and I were working on this code together. If
Mm-hmm.
I made a change to this code and if you've got a copy of this code and you're making a separate change to the code, now our code
Mm-hmm.
won't match. It doesn't match one another.
Okay.
So
Yes.
so what GitHub does is it gives you the ability to make one main type of code. Then
Mm-hmm.
you can make basically a copy of that code and bring that to your personal computer,
Mm-hmm.
make your changes, and I make my
Mm-hmm.
changes. And then what happens is we can take our changes and push them up to the main
Into the
branch
main
code.
branch. Okay.
Right, right.
Yes.
So
Okay.
so so basically what you probably were looking at, if you go in here, the way I did this is a repository of info. And I've got it organized where I've got all of my documentation in this folder. So any
Mm-hmm.
kind of links that I have, I'll throw them in there. So like, for example, I updated this right here. I put another link in there and I'll show you what I
Mm-hmm.
did once I get ready to commit that. And then in this is just actually my flow chart. It's just a basic flow chart of what I did, of how I want my process flow to run.
Yes. I remember that.
And
Yeah. And I saw that on the
yep,
YouTube. Yeah.
yep. And
Mm-hmm.
so this, I'm gonna be honest with you. You do this when you're doing new code. You don't do
Mm-hmm.
this when you're messing with existing code, unless you want to know how it kind of flows. And I should say 9 times, 8 times out of 10,
Mm-hmm.
you'll never see something like this, right?
Okay.
So that's one of my struggles at my job, is that we have a bunch of code that rely on other pieces of code,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm having to learn what pieces of code rely on what pieces of code, and
Oh,
it's it's painful, but it you know
you do it.
it's part of the job, right?
Yeah.
So so basically that's what these two pictures are.
Mm-hmm.
And so now my code actually resides over in this PC parents folder. And if you notice, it looks very similar to what you see over here. Well, let me get to
Ah,
that
yes.
over here. It's this right here, actually.
To the right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what you're seeing, all these folders here. So anytime anytime I make a change to this code, um, the changes that I make are on what's called my working copy. So you've got a main copy, which is your master branch, and you've got a
Mm-hmm.
working copy, which is just a copy of what you've checked out from the master branch. You've made changes to it. So if you look in my service one file here, you'll see
Mm-hmm.
that I've got just some bare bones basic stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
In the
Okay.
meantime, what I've done is I've made changes. I renamed my service class over here to parent service, and I've added all this code in there.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that you make changes on the fly, if you're working on a project with other developers, is you create what's called you create a branch. And so if you
Mm-hmm.
click in GitHub, you could be able to do this. If you click in GitHub, you'll notice that underneath my master branch, there's another branch here.
Mm-hmm.
If I click on that, you'll see I've got more files in here.
Yes.
And if I click on the service one, you'll see that, oh, not that one. Actually, on the mail notify client notify right here, you'll see that I've got a lot of the code that I put in there is in here
Yeah.
already.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
So it
But if I
basically
click,
just. Mm-hmm.
yeah, if I click, you'll see that I've got a 404 error. And the reason why I got that is because that particular file doesn't reside in my master branch.
Okay.
Yep. So if I,
So basically, it's just like a team meeting place where you're able to read the master code and then input the code from each team member. It'll be uploaded here.
kind of, sort of. So let me
Okay.
ask this question. Do you have a OneDrive account?
Yes.
I think everybody's got a OneDrive account, right?
Yeah.
So have you ever uploaded a file to your OneDrive account?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever checked that file out and made changes to it and then re-uploaded it before?
No.
Okay. So OneDrive is basically the same thing as Git is, except Git is used specifically for code and OneDrive is used for other files. They're
Yeah.
basically the same. They're basically the same thing.
Okay. So
Yep.
like if what so would I be able to do what this is doing in OneDrive? I would be able to take a file out, change the file, and then re-upload the file to OneDrive.
Mm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And
got it. Okay.
it's basically this. You're basically doing the same thing, except for GitHub is used specifically for code,
Got it.
whereas OneDrive is used for Word documents and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, right?
Okay. Okay. Now,
Um,
mhm.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say one last question. Okay.
Hmm.
So as we follow along with you and with your project, um, should we be utilizing this, like going inside and looking at stuff, or is this these things that you'll be teaching as we go? Like you'll be going into these files as we go along, or is it something that we can do? Like, say we finish with a video or and we worked on something and you were teaching us something, is there specific files that we should go into to look at and kind of like compare and contrast what you were just teaching us?
So the way I look at it is this way.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do what I'm attempting to do, because again,
Mm-hmm.
I have personally never done what I'm doing right now. I've
Right
never
now,
made a Windows service on my own.
this
Right.
is new for you. Yeah.
Yep, I've worked on services before in my job, but
Mm-hmm.
the if you go back to the reason why I opened this, um, again talking about children, I
Mm-hmm.
have a 13-year-old
Yeah.
and a 17-year-old and a 3-year-old. And my 13-year-old, that's my hands-on job. That's my one
Yeah.
that, I had to
Stay on top of.
yes, God. And
Yeah.
so what happened was uh I had gotten an email from her teacher and she was telling me that um she utilizes the computer at school a lot, but and
Mhm.
then when it's time for her to get, on track, it's a little tougher. And she said it's not just my daughter, it's all the
All of
kids,
them.
right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have the same issue at home where unless I'm right there, I don't know what she's working on.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to do was I wanted to be able to track what she's messing with, what she's looking at.
Yeah.
You know, she's got a nasty habit of leaving herself logged in.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted this service to go ahead and do all of this stuff for me automatically without me having to be sitting there. You know what I'm
Yeah, you don't
saying?
have to be watching over her. The service is doing that for you.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. And
Okay.
so I said, you know what? I've never created a service before. I know that my job, I'm going to have to work with services more. And so I was like, you know what? I'll just kill two birds with one stone and just learn how to, you know, make my own service and get an idea of, you know, of how they might work
Yeah.
and learn a few things. And so that's what
Yeah.
all this is. And so as I learn, I'll point things out that obviously y'all may not know or may know or conceptually will help you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that's the whole purpose of this.
Okay.
If you want to try your hand at it, go right on ahead. I'm not gonna
Okay.
stop anybody from doing it.
Yeah.
But the only, like I said, I think I said it before, the only thing I would caution, and when I was telling one of my coworkers that I was doing this, he said, "Oh, that sounds interesting." And then he goes, "But you want to make sure you're telling these folks that are watching you to be careful because a Windows service can kill your computer if you're not careful." And
Mm-hmm.
so, obviously, you want to know what you're doing when it comes to Windows services. You don't want to,
Yeah.
you know, kill your computer, you know, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you have issues. But
Yeah.
um, uh, I I'm fully aware of how the service should work. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're following along with what I'm doing, you know, it shouldn't be a problem. But my goal is that to get you. So as an engineer or as a developer, if you find a concept and you're like, you know what, that's really interesting. So this is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'll learn something. And then I'll get to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do my own thing with what I just learned. I don't want to keep
Learn.
following along. I want to, you
Yeah.
know, do my own thing and find out how it works. Kind of like what you're doing with
Yes.
the try catch stuff, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's how I learn. And if I can help others with what I'm learning as I go on the fly,
Yeah.
then all for it.
Okay.
No developer and no engineer uh, knows it all when they get online. There's, you know, tried just like when Antoine's online and he's doing stuff, sometimes he'll run into something where he's like, oh, I got to figure this out kind of a thing. That's no different
Yeah.
for me or any other
Yeah.
developer out there.
Yeah.
So, yep, yep.
Awesome. So for right now, I'm just going to watch and learn, take
Mm-hmm.
notes. Like you said, it's not really about the syntax, more about the conceptualism,
Mm-hmm.
you know, about the concepts, and
Right.
just enjoy the show.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I
Enjoy.
said, so one of the things, like, for example, that I was going to point out tonight, um, was this is sending out an email. And this is something that I've done before. I have uh, an application that's currently running on that machine that my
Hmm.
daughter logs into,
Hmm.
that whenever she logs in, I get an email or a text message anyway. I mean, that's
Okay.
happening right now. But I just
Okay.
want to make it, I want to make it cleaner. And
Yeah.
um, so like all this right here is stuff that you can learn on your own. Let me change this. Change that. And then a couple of things that I'm gonna do is I'm going to encrypt the email. I'm going to encrypt my email, like my password and that kind of stuff, because that's the mistake that I made that got my hand slapped. Um, um, and when I look at it, when I look back and I'm like, that was so stupid, but it was a learning experience, and so
Yeah.
but those are things that if I can help, then I'll help with the stuff that I know, and
Okay.
and maybe a better way to do it. And one of my last goals is when I get this to a point where I want to run it, I'm going to ask my coworkers, one in particular, to take a look at my code and say, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm sure he'll tear it apart. That's what he do. He tears everybody code apart.
So you want him to tear it apart. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean that's how you get better, right? I mean,
Yes.
some people take it personally. At my job, all of our code is reviewed. It doesn't matter who it is. My code's reviewed. His code gets reviewed. And there's people that he's been working there for a long time, and he knows a lot about this stuff. And so, anything that he tells me, down to the smallest little thing, I want to know because that makes me better if I can pick something up. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, and that's really the greatest thing that you should have is that want to know, even when people are tearing your code up, you can say, okay, this is how I did it. How can I do it better? How would you do it?
Yeah, that's why I'm constantly asking, for you guys' help and asking the question. Even the answer that you've given me, I want to dig deeper into that answer and ask another question. Like I want to basically tear it down to where every minute detail is explained to where I can understand. Turn on the other light too, bro. It's kind of dark.
Right. So, like for example, in this instance here, one of the things that I did was, so like right here, you see this break. This is like something that like Antoine was talking about. This is a switch statement, just like in just like in JavaScript.
JavaScript, yes.
Yep. And so it works exactly the same way. And so based on what she's doing, I want to send a different email each time from a different email address. And so and then that way, if she's doing something wrong, I can actually, bump up the importance of the email or do something different to it. And so, like, for example, down here, I believe in this client here, maybe I should put that SMTP client. I'll put that up to the top here. And then down here, what I'll do in this one here, because this is the one where she's doing what she ain't supposed to be doing. I'll put client. It's a client. No, it's message. There's a message somewhere. Where'd that message go? There it is.
She's awake. Is Imani awake? She's what? Oh, okay.
And so, like here, let's see. Message. There should be an importance or a not importance. It's what's it called? Priority. There it is. So, and so like if I want to set the priority on this one,
you don't have to do it.
I have to create another instance of this mail message priority. So what I need to do here is create a priority. And then down here, I can set the priority to normal. It's ITY, Alex. ITY. And so like in this one,
turn it down.
In this one, I want to set the priority to how do I want to do that? Message. If notify type equals A2, message priority equals priority high.
What's happening, bro?
Is that it? Equals. There we go. So like what I just did,
Mm-hmm.
you know, is if restricted. So basically, if
So
she
if
falls,
she logs into a restricted email, you make the message that you will receive a high priority.
yeah, something like that. And
Okay.
so basically, what this is going to do is, when I call this method in here,
Mm-hmm.
I can pass in a type based on an event. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, if I find out that she's on a restricted website like YouTube or
Mm-hmm.
Snapchat or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I can send this method a 2,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll go through all my logic. And then when it gets down to the case 2, down here, it'll set the notification type to a high notification type.
Got it.
Yeah, anything else, what it'll do is just send it as a regular email or not set a notification level.
Because you got your case number 1 is just login, and then your case number 3 is non-restricted. So you want the high priority in your case number 2, which I see you have as restricted.
Yep, exactly.
That is awesome.
Yep.
That
And
is awesome.
so if it works the right way,
Mm-hmm.
then it should be good to go. And then what I can do as well is I can test this logic out in a unit test. Let's see if I can do this here. Should be able to.
That neat. Am I going to be able to read that?
Let's see here. Properties. This is the part I always forget how to do. So what I need to do here is I need to link. I need to build this solution, and then I'm going to link my DLL that I'm creating up here into this test project. I should just be able to reference it. Say add reference. And it should just go in. There it is right there. Boom. Say okay. Okay. Let's go. And now I should be able to just write a test method for it, depending on how I've got this. Okay. So let's see if I can do this here. Let's see. PCParentService.mail. PCParentService. PCParentService. PC equals new. Nope.
I'll take a shower.
Let's see if I can do that. How am I doing that one? PCParentService.mail. So part of what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a reference to this mail client notify over here class. And I think I need to make a reference to the interface instead. Let's see, iMail client. I'm not a pro at writing test methods.
So can you run your test methods like for this? You would be running it like not line by line, but like section by section.
Yeah, you can. If you get it all set up the right way, you can. Yeah.
Hey, shh. Calm down.
And that's one of the things that I didn't start using test methods until I get to my current job. So, well, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's see what happens here. Let's go to here. And let's go to Google. I'll show you what I do. And let's say how to connect a test method in C#. Okay. Visual Studio, how to get started with unit testing. Test initialize. So there's a class. There's our cleanup. There's an initialize. But I want to reference that. And it might just be that I need to just continue to link everything into one another. Services to run. And then oftentimes you'll find that you get ahead of yourself. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You're going to continue recording this once you actually get it to be to test, to get the test running. I have to go cook dinner. Yes.
Yep, no problem. No problem, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to start winding down here myself anyway. But yeah, this session is being recorded on my team's account. So.
Okay. So how would we access the account? Just go back to this link and then rewatch it?
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll shoot a link over to the team's recording. Yep.
Okay.
And then it should either allow me to download it or it should just give you the link to it. So.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, but I'll throw it out there in the Slack community though.
Okay. Thank you so much, Coach, for everything. This was amazing and awesome to watch and try to get to understand. I'm excited to see where it's all going to go.
Yep. Anytime.
I'm excited to see the finished project. Okay. All right. You have a good night, Coach.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.